Welcome to This Week in Taiwan. I'm Iris Xu. Every Saturday, we break down the biggest stories making headlines across the country. From politics and policy to culture and the unexpected. Whether you are tuning in from Taipei or halfway around the world, we've got you covered with what you need to know to stay in the loop. Taiwan is home to 23 million people, and you might think what happens on this small island doesn't affect you. But in reality, it is quite the contrary. From geopolitics to global supply chains, Taiwan is more connected to your life than you might expect. So let's get into this week's news and see just how interconnected we really are. Taiwanese manufacturers are watching closely after the United States announced steep new reciprocal tariffs on 14 countries last week, raising concern across industries with deep investment ties in Southeast Asia and Mexico. Tariffs will climb as high as 32% for Indonesia, 30% for Mexico, and 20% for Vietnam. The announcement sent shockwaves through Taiwan's business community, especially as many firms had reinvested in those very markets after the first wave of US-China tariffs in 2018. According to the Ministry of Economic Affairs, over 300 Taiwanese companies currently operate in Mexico, primarily in electronics manufacturing, auto and machine parts, and textiles. Taiwan also has major investments in Vietnam and Indonesia, spanning sectors from food processing and textiles to financial services and fishing. Qiu Shifang, a senior analyst at the Taiwan Institute of Economic Research, says traditional industries like textiles and auto parts will be hit hardest. However, key Taiwanese exports, such as electronic components and ICT audiovisual products, are so far less affected, though they remain under review. Qiu warns that even if some industries are spared direct tariffs, the uncertainty alone may lead to shrinking demand in the second half of the year. She explains that if countries are taxed at the same rate, competition remains level, but if global demand declines, then everyone suffers, regardless of tariffs.
Because if the tariffs are announced, we will compare with competing countries. If everyone is taxed at the same rate, then the baseline for competition will remain the same, and we can compare how to respond. But if demand declines, regardless of the tariff rate, everyone will be affected.
Meanwhile, Danjiang University International Relations Professor Lin Ruoyu says the situation is still fluid. She believes Southeast Asian manufacturers have been bracing for this possibility and will adapt as needed. But with unpredictable U.S. policy and fragmented negotiation responses across affected countries, businesses may need to adjust in real time. As Taiwan's trade delegation continues discussions with U.S. officials, manufacturers here are left navigating a rapidly shifting global trade landscape. Taiwan's fishery agency is pushing back against a recent CNN report alleging abuse of migrant workers aboard Taiwanese fishing vessels, reaffirming its zero-tolerance policy towards labor exploitation. The report centers on 38-year-old Indonesian fisherman Silwanus Tankoda, who described grueling conditions on a Taiwanese boat, 4-month voyages, 18-hour workdays, minimal rest, and insufficient food. Even after being transferred to another vessel, Tankoda said fishing continued for weeks before he received medical attention. He was later dismissed and received no compensation for his injury. Another former Indonesian fisherman shared that a colleague fell seriously ill while working in the Pacific. Despite repeated requests to return to port, the captain allegedly delayed for several months, leading to the worker's death. The fisherman also claimed he was punished with food deprivation and threatened with salary deductions after demanding the body be returned home. In response, Taiwan's fishery agency said Tankoda's captain acted on medical advice from a shore-based doctor who assessed that the injury was not life-threatening. The agency promised an investigation into the compensation issue. As for the other fisherman's claim, the captain reportedly asserted that all wages were paid and the body was repatriated to Indonesia at no cost to the family. The agency expressed regret over individual cases but emphasized that they are rare. The agency also welcomed international organizations and media to conduct on-site inspections, saying it is committed to transparency and to ongoing efforts to improve human rights protections in the fishing industry. Taiwan's Foreign Minister Lin Chia-lung is in Paraguay this week, reinforcing ties with one of Taiwan's key diplomatic allies in Latin America. Lin shared highlights of his visit on social media, including his meeting with Paraguayan President Santiago Peña. According to the minister, President Peña described Taiwan-Paraguay relations as rock solid, emphasizing that their partnership will not waver in the face of external pressure. Peña also expressed admiration for Taiwan's development and said Paraguay hopes to learn from its democratic and economic model. He noted that both countries share similar histories and face comparable challenges due to their geographical positions, adding that defending Taiwan also means defending Paraguay. Meanwhile, Reuters reported that President Lai Ching-te is expected to visit Paraguay in August. In response, the Foreign Ministry clarified that there are currently no confirmed plans for any presidential overseas trips. Deputy Director General Chen Yijun of the Foreign Ministry's Public Diplomacy Coordination Council said that invitations extended to President Lai reflect strong bilateral ties and that planning high-level visits remain a core responsibility of the ministry.
In fact, the invitation extended to President Lai by our diplomatic allies highlights the close and friendly ties between our countries. Organizing overseas visits for high-ranking officials has always been a key responsibility of the Foreign Ministry.
Presidential Office spokesperson Karen Guo added that the public will be informed if any official arrangements are made in the future.
It is early morning and soldiers target the bridge, firing several shots in succession. Multiple clouded Leopard armored vehicles advance steadily across the bridge, moving forward to control the area. Military forces are also positioned along the bridge's edge, providing covering fire. The Han Kuang 41 exercise continued into the early hours of Tuesday, marking the first time the Wanban Bridge was completely blocked off for military drills. The Wanban Bridge was chosen as a key exercise location because it connects Wanhua and Banqiao districts, directly linking to the presidential office area and the nation's political and economic centers. The exercise focused on bridge defense and stronghold operations, establishing 4 barrier positions, each 120 meters long. There are 8 defensive obstacles, such as Hesco Bastion, defense walls, and steel hedgehogs, covering roughly 70% of the bridge surface. Through tactical positioning, enemy forces can be trapped along the riverbank. Su Ziyun from the Institute for National Defense and Security Research explained that armored units from Linkou and the 99th Brigade moving north from the south will pocket the enemy from the southern flank. This creates a pincer movement, using the river as a boundary to force enemies against the riverbank for freeway elimination. After securing the position, forces must clear the area with firepower. This exercise deploys several clouded Leopard vehicles equipped with Javelin missiles and Kestrel anti-armor rocket launchers, forming multi-layered defenses. These exercises demonstrate Taiwan's dedication to realistic combat training as China's military threats continue to grow. Phil Eskowski for RTI News.
With just days to go before Taiwan's high-stakes recall vote, political tensions are rising as both major parties ramp up their campaigns. On Wednesday, the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, alongside ally civic groups, brought their round trip to Safeguard the Nation campaign to Keelung, rallying support for the recall of KMT legislators. DPP Secretary General Lin Chia-lung accused the KMT of misleading voters, criticizing the party's recent push for a 10,000 NT dollar cash handout as an irresponsible and unlawful attempt to sway public opinion. Lin called the 230 billion proposal a violation of budgetary rules and said, quote, "This is using your own money to buy your votes. They're selling empty promises."
在日前所通过的这个特别条例要普发现金1万元，这个就是在用你的钱在买你的票。
The KMT quickly fired back, releasing a list of what it calls 10 dirty tricks the DPP might use to manipulate the recall vote. The list includes alleged tactics like disinformation, fake diplomatic wins, China fear-mongering, and bias at the Central Election Commission. KMT spokesperson accused the DPP of spreading lies and fear, saying the party is trying to distract voters from real issues. She urged the public to see through what she calls smear tactics and emphasized that the KMT would continue to highlight its legislative achievements. On Friday, Vice President Hsiao Bi-khim reaffirmed Taiwan's commitment to security, democracy, and global cooperation, outlining key government priorities during a speech on Friday to the Foreign Correspondents' Club. Reflecting on the first year of President Lai Ching-te's administration, Vice President Hsiao said Taiwan is navigating a complex and volatile global environment, marked by rising pressure from China accelerating technological disruption and mounting transnational challenges like climate change and cyber threats. On national defense, Hsiao said Taiwan is undertaking sweeping military reforms to build a capable and modern force, while also strengthening civil resilience. These efforts include record-high defense spending, conscription reform, cybersecurity improvements, and community-wide preparedness against both military threats and natural disasters. She also addressed cross-strait relations, saying Taiwan remains committed to peace and dialogue, but will not tolerate coercion. Hsiao warned of Beijing's escalating hybrid tactics, ranging from disinformation to infiltration, and emphasized that defending the status quo is a responsible choice, not a provocation.
We approach the cross-strait relationship with both principle and responsibility. President Lai has reiterated our government's commitment to upholding peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. Taiwanese people are peace-loving and among the friendliest and most generous in the world. We do not seek conflict. We will not provoke confrontation. And as President Lai indicated in his inaugural speech, we have urged the PRC to dialogue with the democratically elected government of Taiwan with parity and respect. For decades, Taiwanese people and businesses have contributed to China's growth and prosperity, which has only been possible under a peaceful and stable environment. Aggressive military posturing is counterproductive and deprives the people on both sides of the Taiwan Strait of opportunities to pursue an agenda of growth and prosperity.
On the economic front, the vice president described Taiwan as a critical hub in global supply chains. She said the government is deepening trade partnerships with the U.S., Europe, and Indo-Pacific allies. In closing, Vice President Hsiao said Taiwan is not a passive actor on the global stage, but it is actively shaping its future through partnership, innovation, and democratic resolve. Thank you for listening to This Week in Taiwan. My name is Iris Xu. Until next week.